I'm Mark S. Davis, veterinarian. I live in Amagansett. I've been in Amagansett since 1984, and we are now in South Fork Animal Hospital, and I'm the owner-director of South Fork Animal Hospital in Waynescott, New York. We had a client come in one weekend, and he came in, a new client. He stood in front of us at the front desk and said, "I just came out of Westchester, New Rochelle." And he's standing there in front of us, and we're like, oh my goodness, this is what you're reading about, is the next epicenter in New York. And so right that weekend, we shut down, we became curbside. So we didn't let any two-legged animals into this office. Only four-legged animals could come into this office. And we've done that just until recently, March 1st, I basically opened up. This is an essential business, and we are allowed to keep operating. And during the pandemic, we've been exceptionally busy, incredibly busy. We kept clients outside in their cars. I'd interview them. My staff would go out and bring the pets in, and then I'd tell them I'm going to examine the patient and then bring out. It was absolutely fantastic. I could have a crew of 2 or 3 working at the same time. I could see 3 patients at the same time in different rooms while their humans were in the car. And actually some of them liked it. We gave them our Wi-Fis. They could do anything on their phones. And still, even though we've stopped curbside, we still offer it. And I'd say probably 75% of the people want to stay in their car. So it's a whole new business model. I became extremely efficient. When I read in the veterinary market that COVID caused inefficiencies, we actually had the opposite. We became very efficient. And that's due to my staff. I heavily use my staff. So I as one veterinarian, I'd have 3 teams of 2. So each of my technicians would go out with an assistant, and they'd bring a pet into the office, and they'd start the process, and I'd examine, and then they'd start on the treatment. So it was extremely efficient. And again, back to your original question, how did those two-legged animals behave? They got worse with time. And so there's still, I probably am going to get in trouble, but there's still some we won't let in the office. So I've been trying to hire staff since before the pandemic, so I think that's a whole Hamptons issue. And because of the pandemic, people who would just have summer homes have moved out here, and so now there's not affordable housing for staff. So to keep staff, I've had to increase wages, be a lot nicer than maybe I used to be, and just let them know I appreciate them. And the staff I have is just fantastic. So now I have a core staff. There was one point where I had maybe 15 staff members. Now I'm down to 5 or 6, and it's not for lack of trying. I've been trying to get help for quite a while, and I understand that in the Hamptons, it's everywhere. It's every restaurant, it's every business has the same problem. Basically, at the direction I got at the county and state, I actually basically had to work to find it. I was on the computer all the time looking for stuff. Nobody ever reached out. Nobody told me what's essential, not essential. In regard to vaccines, veterinarians weren't on the primary list. We had to wait for our turn to get vaccinated. One of my associations that I belong to, which I won't say, I basically dropped them because they dropped the ball. They didn't give us any direction, and I'd been paying them dues, association fees, inspection fees for years and years and years, and this is when I felt this is when they should have stepped to the plate, and they didn't. The American Veterinary Association was very helpful in giving direction and telling us what other veterinarians are doing. Locally, we don't have a big interaction between other veterinarians talking about what to do. Again, I've had interactions with a couple that I've had long interactions with, but giving each other advice and kind of comforting each other about what's happening. Everything was really tight. Even now, we can't get certain dog foods. Our dog food, just Science Diet, which is this huge company, Hill's company. I can hardly stock my shelves. Many of the drugs went sky high. I do chemotherapy. for lymphoma in dogs, and some of the drugs just went crazy in price. So something that's should be a $25 drug now is a $250 drug. I don't know if it's supply chain or if it's, there's people that take advantage of situations too. I like to say I work in fantasy land here. I'm in a situation where the first question people ask is, how can I take care of my pet? And maybe the second question is, how much is it going to be? Even though it's not $25, but it's $250, somebody's going to treat that pet. All species have coronaviruses, but very few of them are transmissible to humans. Then studies came out to show that cats and dogs could get the COVID-19, but they were unlikely. It was unlikely to reproduce in them, and it was very unlikely to spread from them. I think some of the larger cats, tigers particularly, got COVID and got sick and may have transmitted it to the zookeepers. And I think the mink, where you hear about mink, actually entire industries had to be slaughtered because the mink could transmit it to people. And now you're hearing that white-tailed deer are a reservoir for COVID right now, and I think they've found Delta and Omicron in white-tailed deer, something we're always watching. And of course, the theory is that it came out of animals to humans in the markets in China. So basically, our four-legged patients weren't really affected by the pandemic. We did a great job providing top-level veterinary care. We had to deal with a dog that was gored by a deer during the pandemic, and its intestines were hanging out. We had to, do emergency care and then get it into another referral facility, and all referral facilities on Long Island are incredibly busy. But basically, this dog had a 20-inch hole in his abdomen from a deer, and he survived. The clients were incredibly dedicated in many ways, monetary not being the least, and they were able to get this dog to survive, and it just happy-go-lucky golden doodle came in here the other day, and it was perfect. The one word that would come to mind about the pandemic is patience, but I'd spell it two different ways. P-A-T-I-E-N-C-E and P-A-T-I-E-N-T-S, because I had to be patient with so many patients. And so that's my word, is patience.